All right, well, the deed is essentially done. And tomorrow at this time, probably tomorrow night, maybe late tomorrow night, Neal Gorsuch, by a simple majority, will be the next Supreme Court Justice of the United States. Now, depending on your perspective, party, affiliation, your view of things, you either like that or you hate that. Political analyst David Burstein says Republicans asked for this pushback by not voting on Merrick Garland, of course, Barack Obama's original choice. And this is a bad thing they're doing. Former Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli disagrees. So I want these two fine gentlemen to sort of debate that out. Ken, to you first on this, that Republicans will regret this as well, that the Democrats are saying, you know, there will be a day you're not in charge, and we'll be ramming appointments and appointees down your throat you won't like, you say?
You mean like they did when they got rid of the nuclear option for every other judge and presidential appointment other than Supreme Court appointments? This is a very small addition to a very important, meaning the Supreme Court's very important, but it's a very small addition to what Harry Reid already did. And his Democrats who are now complaining all supported. So this is an extreme partisan play on the Democrats' part. And there will be days long in the future, I'm sure, when Republicans say, gee, I wish we could filibuster this person. But I would tell you as a conservative who also is a Republican that I don't ever find the non-conservative Republicans with the guts and the spine to oppose a Democrat president putting a justice on the Supreme Court. So conservatives aren't losing anything here. We gain.
All right. So, David, what do you make of that and the fact that it's not as if this has not happened before a simple majority sufficed for Clarence Thomas? I know a controversial pick back in those days, but it wasn't etched in stone here. Now, of course, these things have gotten to be acrimonious more often than not in later years, but not always. So maybe we're overanalyzing this. What do you say?
Well, look, I mean, it's just an extension of what we know is happening in Washington. That it was indefensible what Republicans did to Merrick Garland, and similarly, what Democrats are doing to Judge Gorsuch right now. You know, there's no way that this was actually going to happen. They're trying to feed a hungry base who are hungry for opposition to anything and all things Donald Trump, and it's not actually going to help them in the long term. So
you think both sides then kind of retreat to their base, and that if a liberal is in charge, a Democrat is in charge, you're going to get, you know, a lot more liberal nominees. The same with Republicans in charge, a lot more conservative, and that this base appeal will just be the rule of thumb.
I think that's the place that we're at, right? I mean, you know, we went from a time not that long ago where there was, you know, where there were 98-0 votes for Supreme Court justices. Those days are totally over.
And for Judge Gorsuch.
Exactly. And
then we also went through days where, you know, even you know, a popular president, you know, couldn't voice a bad pick on people. Judge Bork, or at least is interpreted that way, or in the case of Lyndon Johnson, you know, and Fortas. I'm just saying that there is. Sometimes things go afoul, right, Ken?
Neal, 2 points. One, Republicans, to my knowledge, and I may be wrong about this, but I don't think Republicans have ever filibustered a nominee for the Supreme Court, ever. Only the Democrats. This is novel. This is new. They're the only ones who've ever gotten this partisan. It's the Democrats. That's item one. And item two, I want to take issue with something David said, and that is that what we now call the Biden rule is a bad idea. I think it's a very good idea. One of the great things about Donald Trump's pick of Neal Gorsuch is he put this out there almost a year ago. If they had complaints about Neal Gorsuch, they should have started making them last May. But the American people, part of what they got when they voted for Donald Trump for president is they got that list of judges, or individuals who are prospective justices, and it was all very public. This is the most involvement of the public in picking a Supreme Court justice ever.
I will have David address this as well, but what harm would it have done for Republicans to at least granted Merrick Garland a hearing? And they had the majority. They could have shot him down. But that's where a lot of this originated. It's a water under the bridge, I understand. But what would have been the harm with that?
Well, it would have been a waste of time if you weren't going to go through with the process. I think the Republicans essentially adopted the Democrats' Biden rule last year. So somebody may change that in the future, but I don't think it's such a bad thing to hold out for a presidential election and make the Supreme Court picks of the
Well, that was a year
party's
ahead of time,
nominees.
though. But you're right. It's water under the bridge. But David, your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I mean, to say that the Republicans have never filibustered anyone, yeah, they can't filibuster them if they don't put them through a hearing process. And I can almost guarantee that had Merrick Garland gone through a hearing process, he would have been filibustered by Republicans. I don't think, Ken, you can sit here with a straight face and say that he wouldn't have been.
Well, even with the filibuster, though, he still would have lost, right? A simple majority would have lost, right?
That's right. That's right. And, you know, for most of our history in this country, we have basically had an unspoken, with really only a few exceptions through our entire history as a country, that one of the prerogatives and one of the things people are voting for when they vote for President of the United States is for that person to be able to pick anyone who comes onto the Supreme Court during the time that they're president up until, you know, January of their next term. They are president. And this idea that somehow there's a caveat to that.
Those days are gone. And I don't know what happens now, but for both sides, a pox on them both. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely true.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you both. You argued
Good to be with you, Neil.
Very, very well.
Good to be with you, David.